And we're live. And welcome to Sidetrack, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. Dude, it's just me and you. It's like 2021 again.
It's like, oh my God, I've got COVID again.
Yes. We've all got COVID.
Everybody's
got COVID. It's 2021 all over again.
yes.
Just me and the Storm Bear.
Yeah.
Talking Star Trek. Talking whatever else we want to talk about. And first of all, mate, how are you? We've not seen you in a couple of weeks. You've been busy.
Oh, God in heaven. So, I'm working on this. I've got homework all the time. I'm doing school part-time, and the thing I'm working on now is an electrical engineering degree because I just had a few credits to get one. And, I've been in the background working on a PhD for theoretical mathematics. But if you ever, after I get the PhD, if you ever see a college catalog in my hand, I've got one word for you: chloroform. Just knock me right out, comatose me right out. Make sure I'm laying comfortably on the couch there before you do. But it's got to stop. Someone's got to stop. I've got to stop school. Really?
Yeah, man. I'll just set fire to it while it's in your hand with a flamethrower.
Okay.
So
that's acceptable.
I mean, I think that's fair. That's fair. Anyway, hey everybody in the chat. I'm not going to do this too much because we'll have a little bit of a conversation a bit later. But I did want to get into it's a little bit more about Star Trek. I am going to be talking about Legacy a little bit because there's a distinct possibility it might get massively delayed, and the reason why is so petty. And I've alluded to this once or twice before, but I've always said this can't be true. It's too petty. It's so pathetic. It can't be true. And it turns out it is. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about the contract that Paramount signed with Secret Hideout 4 years ago, and the one that now Skydance is stuck with. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about penalties, which is something we've not talked about before because I didn't know about it. But they're astronomical. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And we'll talk about basically how Secret Hideout, the relationship between Secret Hideout and Paramount actually works, because it is so backward. I spoke to somebody that like again is in the industry, and he says this is the only relationship like this he knows of. He's never heard of a relationship like this before between a studio and a production partner. It's just insane. But anyway, so we'll get into it. Don't forget to please like and subscribe and blah 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 and all those things. So the contract, yeah, boom. It was signed a few years ago, and then a couple of years before it was come to an end, it was signed again. So it was extended. It now runs to August 2025 with an additional sort of 12 months that actually runs it through to August 2026. But, I've said to you before about how they've got this thing written in that anything in production in August 2025, they're allowed to complete. That is basically what that extra 12 months is. Right. So they cannot actually start anything new from August 2025, but there is a 12-month extension to the contract that allows them to sort of finish things up if they're not going to have their contract extended. And apparently that's in the contract. It's got to be agreed by this August 2025. So first of all, we're stuck with Secret Hideout basically till August 2026. Yay. So that's the first thing I found out this week that's interesting. The first contract for Secret Hideout, and I'm going to tell you how the contract works, right? So Secret Hideout produce Star Trek. They pay all of the production costs, and then Paramount basically buy the show, or Netflix or Amazon when it in front of a card, pay for the show to be produced. But Secret Hideout actually pay for it. And then they got those costs back when they then sell the show. Back to the owners, which I always think is quite funny. Paramount, they're going, yeah, we will pay for that show that we own. Thank you. So they get a fee though when that contract is signed. So they're going to say, right, you're going to produce Star Trek for us for the next 5 years, and here's a fee. In the ballpark, what do you reckon the first fee was? The first time it was signed, like 6 years ago. It's in the millions. I'll give you that. So how much do you reckon?
Oh, 50 million.
Not a million miles away. It was 25 million. Was the
Oh,
first time. When it was extended, how much do you think the fee was? It's up. It went up.
is it in nine figures, like 100 or 200 million or some crazy thing like that?
150 million.
Oh,
Fee, right? Now, Secret Hideout, keep that. That's just the fee. That is just the Paramount. Secret Hideout, will you please make Star Trek for us? Yes, we will. Like, okay, then here's 150 million pounds. Thank you. The whole reason why they did this in the first place was because Paramount didn't really know what to do with Star Trek, and Kurtzman pitched this idea, so he's basically rented the license off them for this period, and then they pay them for the privilege. It's just
so the 150
mind-boggling.
didn't go toward any production cost. That's just
that is just the fee.
We're going to Monaco for the weekend.
I mean, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they use that for like then setting up Secret Hideout and starting a business and all those sorts of things, all those fees that there. But basically, yeah, that was just the fee that Paramount paid. Normally, this is the other way around.
Yeah.
Normally, a company will license a product and they would pay Paramount for the privilege, and then they get to sell it. But not other way around for this. I don't know what pixie dust Alex Kurtzman was sprinkling in the coffee over at Paramount Studio when they agreed this, but this is what they agreed. So yeah, 150 million quid was it when it was extended. And then, as I said, the contract though is even worse for Paramount. And this is something that apparently, I was talking last week about Skydance doing all this review.
Right.
I've spoken to somebody that's sort of involved, and they've sort of gone, how the hell did this ever get agreed? How was this agreed? Paramount have absolutely no control over what Skydance actually then, after what Secret Hideout then actually produce, right? The only control they have is that they have first dibs basically on anything. Basically, if Secret Hideout can sell it, they can make it. And that is it. So Paramount have got first dibs though. So when they did like Picard, they pitched Picard. Paramount didn't want it at the time. Or they did. They put it on CBS All Action, I think, the first time in America. But over here, it went on Amazon, and Amazon pay for a big chunk of paying for it, right? And Paramount were okay with that. They didn't take the first dibs sort of thing. They don't necessarily wanted it, but the thing where this game was shocking though is that if they then, once a TV show is in production, if they then try to cancel it, there are massive penalties built into this contract, right? And this actually triggered over Discovery. Season 2 of Discovery, Netflix wanted to cancel it. Netflix were paying a big chunk. They pay basically the international distribution rights, right? So over here, it was actually advertised as a Netflix production, as a Netflix show in the UK. I know it wasn't in America, but in the UK it was, because they paid for the international rights. They didn't want it after season 2, so they wanted to cancel, and it was looking at being cancelled. Paramount wanted to cancel it. This was the first big news. Paramount wanted to cancel Discovery at the end of season 2, but couldn't afford to because it would have cost anything upwards of $100 million in penalties to do. Which is just insane. Basically, the penalties are in there because when a new TV show starts, it's a lot of the expense comes in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah,
building sets and
wardrobe and props and all that jazz.
So it's built into this contract that there's a penalty anything up to season 5. After season 5, it can be cancelled, and that's no problem. There's no penalty. But up to that, there's like a escalating penalty. So it's I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but like in season 4, it's 50 million. It's season 3, it's 75 million. It's what I mean, and it goes. But if they tried to cancel something after the first season, it's 100 and something million dollars, and at cancel Discovery it was going to be I was told between 90 and 100 million dollars, because apparently it's not actually written in. There's a formula that they use to figure out what the penalties are, and it depends on what the production costs are, what you know, and then there's a little bit of money for like Kurtzman built in there as well in the back pocket. So that is just like, oh. So Discovery was everybody basically other than Secret Hideout wanted to cancel Discovery at the end of season 2 and couldn't because Paramount were like, it's $100 million. We haven't got it.
Damn.
We can't do it. So basically, they had to move it onto Paramount Plus, and then they made all this big thing of like, we're moving over to Paramount Plus, where Star Trek's coming home. But actually, the executives were back at Paramount going, because we've got no bloody choice. Absolutely astonishing.
God, those are some, you know.
But I guess these penalties are built in, though, for anything now they produce now. So, you know, I'm saying about how it seems like they're trying to announce an awful lot. And they've got this like sitcom that nobody asked for, nobody wants, and Academy that nobody asked for, nobody wants. They're rushing to get that into production because they can get it in production before the 2025 August. If then Skydance decide to cancel it, in a way, Kurtzman doesn't give a crap because he's like, well, that's fine. You're paying the penalty then. You've got to pay us. As soon as it's cancelled. The only time they can cancel it is actually at the 2026 August, but they still have to pay the penalties for anything they cancel. Because I suppose the argument for Skydance is we've still paid the money. But Secret Hideout would be like, well, we've still paid the money to set this up. We're not going out of pocket, so you got to pay the penalty. Whereas Skydance are going, we didn't want the show in the first place. Stop making shows we don't want. The only thing they can do is the only way of cancelling or stopping, like, basically Paramount can say no to the new sitcom. But if somebody else buys it, it'll get made. And I'm being told it's getting made because somebody has agreed to buy it. Whether that's Paramount or something, I don't know, but somebody's agreed to it. So somebody's having it. It's just.
Now the thing that they're buying, what is that exactly? Is it just is it anything that they want to do with the IP, or
they can do anything they want with the IP as long as they can get somebody to pay for it, basically. They could actually make anything, but then obviously they won't get their money back unless somebody buy it. But in theory, Skydance, Secret Hideout could make Star Trek the musical movie starring me, and they could make that if they wanted to. And you lovely people have heard me sing. We don't want that. But they could make it, but if nobody buys it, obviously they'll never get their money back. But the thing is, Paramount couldn't stop them making it if they wanted to.
So we're living in a world where we could actually see something like Star Trek Klingon Pajama Party is essentially where we're at now. Klingon Pajama Party.
Hot Tub Time Machine Klingon Pajama Pie is actually what they could make it if they wanted to. And if somebody was stupid enough to buy it, it would be on our screens. So, I mean, Paramount have been able to have some influence, right? Because they were sort of saying, look, obviously they still own the IP. They're still the owner. They're still the boss. So they're able to exert some influence because, but actually, Kurtzman, if he wants to, and apparently has more than once, can just go, no, I'm not doing it. I say, we'll talk about legacy in a minute, but that is Kurtzman saying no. And delaying it because he doesn't want to. I've heard a lot of rumors about.
I don't know if you've seen the chat, but they've got some really great. The chat has some really great titles: Star Trek Tops and Bottoms, Klingon Bachelorette, Tribbles on Plane.
Klingon Bachelorette Party. I've got to be a bit careful because I'm on my phone, so it's going to wobble around. But yeah, it's just glorious,
tops and bottoms. I'm not sure how to take that. Really, it's
yeah. I like Tribbles on a Plane. That's my favorite.
That is good.
But the problem that basically Skydance are coming into here is though that they don't particularly like Alex Kurtzman. I've been hearing from lots of different sources. They're not massively keen. Obviously, Skydance were involved with one or two of the Star Trek movies. I forget. The J.J. Abrams movies that I tried to pretend aren't Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
But Kurtzman wrote the first one, and I think he was involved in the second, and he was involved in the third, but not as heavily. But he's had an involvement in all three. But basically, it seems so. I always thought that the Skydance dislike of Kurtzman, I don't want to go that extreme, but they're not massively excited about working with him. Came from that, but no, apparently it comes from the Skydance people talking to the Paramount people and sort of saying, okay, this is the contract. How does it work? Oh, we don't really like that. How often does Kurtzman actually just put his foot down and say no? And when Paramount have sort of said, well, quite a lot, that's what's made Skydance a little bit irritable. And obviously these people know each other. They know him. They know things. But the rumor is, and it's being confirmed by several people, that Skydance don't want to work with Alex Kurtzman. The problem is it might be so expensive to get him out or to get Secret Hideout away from Star Trek that we might be stuck with him. And there's another problem in that this deal, so the extension to the deal basically has to be agreed on August 1st of 2025. So Skydance have to decide what they're doing with it by 2025, right? August 1st. But they're not allowed to do anything until the sales final. That is probably not going to be till June next year. So they've got to then get in, make a decision, and negotiate that decision either way with Secret Hideout in basically 3 or 4 months. Well, 2 months. They might have 2 months. June is what everyone's saying. They're expecting to be finalised by. If it's delayed for any reason, though, which this Paramount deal has been round the bloody circles, don't expect it to be done by then. So Paramount would either have to negotiate a new deal without Skydance, because obviously the company still exists, the company's still working in the right direction. They'd have to do it, or they'd have to let the contract lapse, and then Skydance would just have to pick up the pieces later. I'm hearing Skydance, the serious decision might be that they're going to let that Skydance will let the contract lapse. So we'll basically know by August next year if Secret Hideout are going to get a new contract or not. We've got to know by August next year if they're going to get a new contract or not, or it lapses. And then I'm being told that if then Skydance decide to negotiate a new contract, it will be incredibly expensive because Secret Hideout hold all the cards at that point.
So if they do go and don't renew Paramount doesn't renew the contract, are we saying that there's going to be a big dearth of new Star Trek content coming our way? Is this just, with no one developing, because you're going to have to start all that up over again?
The thing is, right? So the way the way copyright works, and I know we've discussed this a few times, but I know people have been a bit confused by it. Paramount 100% own the IP for Star Trek. You hear lots of these rumors where we're like, it's separated, and there's confusion over the movie rights and the thingy rights, and the J.J. Abrams did his Star Treks because they weren't allowed to do the full Star Trek because they didn't really own the IP and all that. And it's nonsense. It's not true. J.J. Abrams changed Star Trek in his movies because he wanted to, and that was the only reason. He wanted to do something a little bit different, and so he changed it and went to this new universe thing. That's just the truth. Paramount 100% own the IP. The problem is anything that then somebody else produces, so in this case Secret Hideout, anything Secret Hideout produce that's original, they technically own, which I know we've talked about a few times. But I think the best example is if they create a new character in Strange New Worlds that's completely new, who's never in Star Trek before, like the engineer, like that new engineer woman in the last season, who is an actress I adore, but a character I hate. Secret Hideout technically own the copyright for that character because they created it. It's a new character. But everything to do with that character is owned by Paramount. Anything Star Trek related is owned by Paramount.
Right.
Okay, so the problem there is if Paramount under Skydance want to continue Strange New Worlds without Secret Hideout, they basically can't, because anything original that Secret Hideout did, Paramount don't own. So there will be they could do it, but they couldn't call it Strange New Worlds, and they couldn't. Oh, they might be able to call it Strange New Worlds because that's related to Star Trek, but that might go to court. But there will be elements they'd have to do it a bit differently, at least, because there'll be elements of it they don't technically own unless they had some sort of deal with Secret Hideout to allow it to continue, sort of thing. But Secret Hideout aren't going to do that. They'll just go, well, we'll make it for you, won't they? That's what I would do if you said, well, we're going to continue it. Say, well, we're not going to let it go unless you let us do it. So we'll see. But that's going to be a problem for Legacy if Paramount would decide to do it in a few years, because elements of it were created under Secret Hideout and they're going to own it. So I for example, I think the even things like the Enterprise G, the design of it, Paramount there might be a grey area about that because Secret Hideout designed it. So it's not right. But this is, I think that the overarching thing I'm trying to say here is that this is not a normal deal.
No joke.
And it's not at all. I say the penalties are astronomical for if a show gets cancelled. And I do wonder whether that's why, I said how after 5 seasons there's no penalties. Is it really a shock then that Discovery got cancelled after 5 seasons? All of a sudden it's like, oh, that makes sense. Lower Decks, 5 seasons. There's no penalties now. So Paramount just said, we're not doing it anymore. It's like, which I think is bullshit because it's the best. I generally think it's the best Star Trek there is. So, but yeah, it's just nuts. But August next year, we'll know either way.
Whoever at Paramount agreed to this should really have, I don't know, their job taken away.
Yeah,
because this is with a franchise like Star Trek, they gave away too much.
Yeah,
specifically.
I think. This is just my opinion now. I'm spitballing a little bit, but I've spoken to a couple of people, and there seems to be a consensus, really, that they allowed it to happen because Paramount didn't have the money necessarily to pay for all the shows, and to do the investment that they needed to do. And there were certain things they just couldn't get going. They didn't really know what to do with Star Trek. Kurtzman did, and he proposed this deal, and it basically meant that Paramount could put forward they could let it go basically and go, right, okay, crack on, sort of thing. Here's your fee, which was, even the $150 million, remember, that's only 15 episodes of Star Trek. They average at about $10 million an episode to produce. So it doesn't. That's half of 1.5 seasons of Picard. Picard was even more than that. Picard was ridiculously, really expensive to produce. And I've heard figures that were suggesting that was 13 to 15 million. Some of those episodes, mainly because of Patrick Stewart's fee.
The high cost of Picard were all above the line. It was all the writers and the actors getting them back again.
So if you think about that, $150 million doesn't go a long way. But so basically, Secret Hideout to secure those costs, they paid CBS a fee. So CBS Studios got money for the production. It was made at CBS Studios, but Secret Hideout paid for it, and then they got the money back when they sold the show, sort of thing. So,
here's a rumor.
Dodge, I think.
Yeah, here's a rumor I heard. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but Jerry Ryan got paid more for her work in Picard than she did cumulatively in Voyager.
I think that's
she hardly got anything out of Voyager because new actress, new kid on the block, great acting chops, and kind of carried the show for a bit. Was a very interesting 7 of 9 was a very interesting character, but was that true that the payday she had at Picard was greater than all of her work on Voyager.
Yeah, I know it was significantly more.
Okay.
But I mean that's the where we're at the moment, isn't it? I mean it's
well, good for her.
Yeah, women just weren't getting paid. I mean, my I've forgotten his name now. The guy that played Chakotay. I mean, there's rumors that the guy that played Chakotay was earned more than Catherine that played Janeway, basically, whose name I also know and has gone out of my head. But which is ridiculous. You know, Janeway was the star. She should have been on the most money, but she wasn't. And you know, there's lots of things like that. But we know about that, don't we? That it's like the guy that starred in that was out of Beverly Hills 90210 did Sharknado 6 or something, and he earned money. He earned more money than Gal Gadot did when she did the first when she starred in the first Wonder Woman, which is just
wow.
nuts.
Hey, let me catch up on something from chat. You know, Michael Carey, he says, anti-derivative Jill as a math PhD candidate. I love your chat name. And that is a great chat name. But Michael, are you doing, you're doing a PhD in math? So that's my subject matter too, is mathematics. And how many damn math PhD candidates are in the chat today? What are we doing to attract math PhDs?
I've got a maths PhD as well. 2 + 2, 4, done. I got a PhD.
So proud of you. Very, very proud. And Michael Nemo, thank you for the $10, man.
Thank you very much, sir. I heard the Discovery's design aesthetic was divergent from canon because it had to be a small, potentially different previous Star Trek looks. Is that true? No, it isn't. So there's this rumor that goes around that Star Trek, particularly the J.J. Abrams movies, had to be 25% different from the previous Star Trek. And they said it was because of IP issues, because they wasn't sure who owned the IP. Basically, when the company split previously, Paramount split with Viacom. Paramount owned the movie rights, CBS owned the TV rights, and that caused a load of friction. It's not true. Several top of the executives overseeing, like Bertram and all these people, have come out and said it's not true, but the rumor persists. Paramount 100% own the IP, and yeah, Midnight Edge. Midnight Edge, you may as well listen to bloody Giant Freaking Robot. To be honest, Midnight Edge, they have their opinions. They're not necessarily based on anything. So legal would have gotten involved. It was not 25% different. Most derivatives have to be 25% different. They say it's not true. The IP is 100% owned by Paramount. They do not have to. There aren't derivatives. There aren't anything like that. This is not like a spin-off. It's just not true. The difference with Star Trek, you can tell this anyway. For example, if J.J. Abrams the Enterprise had to be 25% different. Why did he then change it again in Star Trek Into Darkness and change it again in Star Trek Beyond? He did it not because he had to, because he wanted to, because he's a prat and he has no respect for Star Trek canon. So that's why he did it. So it's a rumor that has persisted for bloody years. And again, I'm afraid it's just not true. Or everything I'm told anyway. I've had an illegal guy explain it to me, and he's just said there's no way that you could build that into a contract anyway. It's nonsensical. So it's just not true. Legacy. Should we talk about Legacy a little bit? Because that's the Star Trek everybody actually wants. We desperately want to see Captain 7 of 9 and everything. So I heard a rumor about 12 months ago that basically Legacy was being blocked personally by Kurtzman because he didn't want to change. He didn't want to. Thank you, Axanar. You're right. Legacy is a series that's based on Picard season 3, and it was Terry Matalas that was the showrunner. And Terry Matalas was getting a lot of praise. So the rumor went round that Legacy was not going to happen because Kurtzman was blocking it, because he wanted to do Academy. He wanted to do this bloody show, this sitcom that he's co-writing. Who knew he was a comedian? I didn't. Even though a lot of the shit he comes out with is funny, because you either have to laugh or you'd cry. Just watching Discovery season 1. Then basically Kurtzman, because it wasn't his baby, he was blocking it and he was stopping it from happening. What we now know from the contract is that actually Paramount can't force Secret Hideout to make anything. They can't go to Secret Hideout, we really want Star Trek Legacy, make it, because Alex Kurtzman can say no. And according to a couple of sources I spoke to this week, he has been. Paramount have been asking him to put Legacy into production immediately after Academy. They agreed to Academy and they've bought it, but they wanted Legacy to come straight after it. Kurtzman said no, and they're putting the sitcom into production instead. So Legacy is going to be delayed. As we spoke last week, though, Skydance want Legacy, and the question is, why isn't it happening? Why are we getting Academy in this sitcom when everybody wants Legacy? What's going on? It was just incredible that it is directly being blocked by Kurtzman. We're going to get at least five seasons of Strange New Worlds, and that is basically because Kurtzman is pushing it. And there are executives at Paramount that don't like it, but they've got no choice
because they've lost their power. We're going to get those seasons whether we want them or not.
Yeah. Well, which would have happened anyway by sounds of it. I heard rumors ages ago that Paramount, a couple of executives that no longer work at Paramount now, so it's irrelevant anyway. They wanted Strange New Worlds blocked after season 3. They were just like, 3 seasons make sense for this show. We need to simplify Star Trek because it's too complicated. And Strange New Worlds is really starting to step on the toes of the original series. And, even though it's a good show, fans don't love it. We need to, do something else, sort of thing. And we heard that rumor several times from really good sources, but it won't happen now. Strange New Worlds will continue for as long as Kurtzman can sell it, basically. To hell with whatever it does to the original series.
David B said, Kurtzman's acting like a spoiled child. It sounds like he's more acting like, the king. I mean, what are they going to do? Spoiled child, you can spank and send to his room. They can't do that to Kurtzman because he, until 2026, he owns it all.
Yeah.
Ooh, Nemo.
Wow. Got it. I'd also heard the Enterprise G was going to be and shot on the as the USS Bard, but was changed at the last minute to Enterprise. No, there was a rumor put out that it was going to be the Picard. And it was done on purpose. The idea was that then everyone went, "Oh my God, it's the Enterprise! That's amazing!" And that we would actually be surprised. And we were surprised because it was shit. There was loads of rumors and stuff put out because so much was sneaking out that everybody found out we were going to see the Enterprise D. It was bloody obvious, but it leaked out, and that was supposed to be a big surprise. So they were putting out loads of different fake news things to try to trick us, apparently. And one of the things was it was the USS Bard. The other thing about it, Nemo, though, is, to be honest, it made more sense for it to be the Picard than it does for it to be the Enterprise. So it was crap. So I really hated that. I really hate that's the Enterprise. But I've talked about that before anyway. But the future of Star Trek, that's what we were going to talk about a little bit. What do you see Star Trek being in 2 years? Say we'd be on.
Well, it's still the Kurtzman train, and I think we're going to get more of a Strange New Worlds. It's unless we get like a Picard spinoff, with Jerry Ryan and the Rangers. That was at least an interesting thing. It sounded like, at least the couple episodes as mentioned. No, but that would be cool. But I think what they've announced is what we're going to get, because it seems like Kurtzman is just hell bent on his version of things, and he's going to run that to the ground until he no longer has a contract to support it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know for. I mean, he doesn't seem like a guy that's got much deviation in his future, or can't or he's capable of changing his mind on the fly if he hears a really good idea. I think it's all locked in, man. I mean, sad to say. Please, I hope there's not a musical. I hope.
Well, they don't want any more music.
Could Kurtzman be making it so shitty that the IP is damaged so much that he can offer the $150 million that he's already got in his pocket back to them to buy everything out from Paramount to ease their side of the books, because they're struggling. It's just to drill the value down of Star Trek to the point to where you can buy it. I mean, that would be, some of the sharks out of Hollywood, that would be, within the realm of reality.
I think if Paramount hadn't have got a new buyer, maybe that's what he was. I doubt that's what he was trying to do. But I mean, if Paramount hadn't have got if Skydance weren't coming in, that was one of the rumors that was bouncing around about 12 months ago that were Secret Hideout trying to buy Star Trek. Basically, were they going to try to buy the IP? Because it would have been valued at about £1 billion, and at that point, that would have been £1 billion Paramount really needed.
Yeah,
it could have used. For example, now with all the debt that needs to be refinanced in the next 6 months or so, or 12 months, that's £1 billion that would have been very handy. Like that. Hey, he might need a job. So, I don't think he'll be working for Disney again. Anyway, so yeah.
Nemo, you're killing me, man. You're just killing me.
I've heard this rumor that Kurtzman has stated that he hates Star Trek. I don't think it's true.
Not with the money it's raking in.
No, exactly. Actually, I've made Axonar, thank you very much for the 2 messages that just popped up. Axonar just mentioned that there were sort of edits in Picard season 3 and things like this that were forced on Kurtzman by Paramount. I only flashed it up for a second, Axonar, so you can put it in the comments. But I'm trying to get into the details. There's basically Kurtzman can obviously put his foot down and say no to anything. But if you've got like Picard season 3, actually, there was a lot of changes that Amazon insisted on for Picard season 3, Picard season 2, that they didn't like after Picard season 1. But they're the customer by that point. So obviously, if they then come to Kurtzman and say, "Oh, we've bought this product. There are some things we don't like about it." That's one thing, they can do that, and obviously Paramount, once they've bought a show, they can then say like, "Well, we don't like this, we don't like that." The thing is, Kurtzman can say yes or no. He can put his foot down and say no. But generally, if the customer says we don't like this, we want to do whatever, you're going to listen, aren't you, as the production company? So there is that. The point is that if then say Paramount sell a show to somewhere else, so Picard, it was paid for by Amazon, say. Paramount can't do anything about it. But also, more importantly, though, Paramount can't make them do Legacy if they don't want to. And that's ridiculous. So, yeah, there is still a customer and, shopkeeper relationship going on. But, yeah, it's just crazy. I think that's everything. So... What do you think? What do you think about Star Trek in 5 years? Then, what do you think Skydance will do with it once they've got there? And guys, get into the comments and tell me what you think as well. What do you think Skydance are going to do?
So let's say that if Skydance doesn't get everything renewed, is that the question?
Well, what do you think? They've got a choice basically. They can renew the contract and carry on with Secret Hideout. They could put in a different contract, which is what I've heard a few times. It will basically mean it would be a show-specific contract. So you'll have a contract to produce Strange New Worlds, a contract to produce this, but they will remove this basically this license agreement. So Secret Hideout won't be able to do whatever they want with Star Trek anymore, or they could completely let the deal lapse completely and try and go a different direction completely with Star Trek, which is something we can we'll talk about what we think that might look like. But what do you think they'd actually do?
Well, it seems like, man, I think Paramount is still, it depends on, I guess a lot of this depends on the restructuring of the debt in 6 months.
Yeah.
Because they owe a lot of money. And
15 billion. Nearly 16 billion.
So from a Paramount point of view, they can't do another deal like they did with a Secret Hideout, where they're just giving them hundreds of millions of dollars to come up with something. I could see them doing Paramount, looking for a contract that is somebody pays for the privilege of making Star Trek content, and then there's sharing on the back end. Because at some point in time, money's got to flow back to Paramount. Be above and beyond what kind of shows they get. I think from the Paramount point of view, they're going to have to look at it as a financial situation, not a creative situation. And so it's just going to be, well, who has the most money that we think can do a good job, and then they will have to pay a license fee back to Paramount, not this other way around kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's going to be debt driven. I mean, I think it's going to be how much can we got to start making some money off of this.
Yeah. You're a little crackly, by the way. Skydance's previous behaviour is very difficult to judge, though, because they've always been a relatively small company. Now they're all of a sudden a massive freaking company. Studio. They've never been a big studio, so they've never really had this problem to deal with before. They've never owned a big, huge franchise like this sort of thing. They've always produced things. So, I don't know. So Christopher, as you said, so just fire the hack and say you can take me to court. It doesn't work. They can't fire him. They've got a contract to him. That what they could do, the only thing they could do is cancel a contract with Secret Hideout. But I'm being told there's almost no. Normally, you would have things in the contract that would allow you to terminate it if you wanted to. Like say that you said like, oh, the quality's too low or something like this. There are things like that apparently in the contract. Because I asked this, but it says, but they're really, really ambiguous. So you cannot sack Alex Kurtzman. I've done loads of videos about that saying you can't sack him. But then I always title the video "Sack Alex Kurtzman" because that gets people to watch it. But I was saying you can't. They've got a contract with him. He owns Secret Hideout. It's his company, in partnership with a couple of other people. But it's his company. So all you can do is sack Secret Hideout, which we should also do. But the contract's going to run out. The way this is working is that the contract's going to run out anyway. I think, in my opinion, I think they'll probably let the contract run down. I think they're going to let the contract run out, and then bring in, if they've got any sense, they'll just film it at CBS Studios. But the reason for the original contract, the way it was done, was because Paramount didn't want to pay for Star Trek. I don't think that's going to be the problem anymore. Ken there just said, just buy Secret Hideout. That's what Warner Brothers were going to do, according to what we were told.
That's right. Hey, am I still crackling? Am I still crackling testing?
No, you're all good now, baby.
Okay, thank you.
No snap, crackle, and pop anymore. What that was Warner Brothers' plan. They was like, well, we'll just buy Secret Hideout out and we'll absorb it into thing, and then that allows them to still then sell it to other people, and which is like what Warner Brothers wanted to do with Star Trek. They wanted to sell it to anybody that would buy it, sort of thing. So it doesn't look like Skydance are going to do that. It looks like Skydance will just let the deal run down, and they'll just let it run out. We'll get a couple more seasons of Strange New Worlds. By then, they might even just sneak the 5th season out by the end of 2026. We can get a couple of other things out, and then the contract will just end. They can get everything they want out of it, but then they can do a reset, and they can go with a different production. But I think they might try to bring Star Trek in-house and make it a traditional franchise again. They'll hire a showrunner. They'll get a couple of shows up and running, maybe even try to get Legacy, maybe bring in Terry Metalis. You just have to change it enough. But 4 or 5 years would have gone by between the end of Picard Season 3 and the start of Legacy then. So you could even, there would be changes, you know what I mean? It's like, well, they'll just say, well, 5 years has gone by. So bloody Picard's kids buggered off back to England, and Raffi is dead. I don't know. And you know what I mean? They could do whatever they like. And the Enterprise G, this looks a bit different. It's been upgraded. You know what I mean? It's just like they could do whatever, and then they could carry on the series. They just avoid. They're just be a little bit careful. They'd have to avoid anything that's, or they'd have to have a deal with Secret Hideout to allow them to do it. But I just think that's the easiest way to do it. I just worry that because of the costs involved, what they might do, Skydance, is they might just try to negotiate a new deal with Secret Hideout that's a little bit more favourable and that gives them a little bit more control, and just carry on. It's just whether they're going to have time to do it, because this is the problem they're going to have. They're going to have a couple of months to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I know they're doing a lot of the work now to try to make a decision. We've talked about it last week. They're doing all the work to try to sort of ask questions and try to get answers. But to actually negotiate, they're going to have 2 or 3 months, and they've got to make a decision. I just worry that the decision will be, let's just give them an extension. We'll negotiate an extension for so long and pay them another fee, and then we'll worry about this in a couple of years down the line because we've got other things to worry about. That's what I would worry about with Skydance. You know, and I just don't know if they're going to have time to do anything but that. But
because like I was saying earlier, if nothing is in production, and they let the contract run out, we could be looking at a gap of content coming out, but it may be a good thing because it may be better content. Paramount may be in a better position financially at that point.
Well, I mean, they will be 100%. They'll be in a much better position to do what they need to do, and to pay the money. Their debt will have been managed. Skydance will have injected a significant amount of money. I think Skydance by then will be looking at selling the huge amounts of the property that they own over at Paramount and trimming a lot of that fat off the business. I think the business will be a lot leaner and a lot more efficient by then. Yeah. I haven't killed off Harris. He's doing a family thing, but
they're going to kill off Harris.
I wouldn't kill Harris. I would pin him down and like ritualistically shave him first, and then kill him. Yeah, exactly. So that boy, cut your hair, hippie, if you're watching. I'm
letting mine grow out. Can you tell?
I mean, I might get a comb forward. I'm going to let my hair grow and comb it forwards. I think what I'm going to do. Yeah.
You do you.
Harris, yeah, and then make Harris watch Star Trek Discovery popcorn. He's going to. He's voluntarily going to. He's an idiot. What he's going to do is watch all the Star Trek chronologically in order. So we've told him he's got to start with Discovery, and I don't think he's twigged it yet. I'm like, you poor bastard. But Skydance is interested in seeing how Academy Expanse 31 does. I think they are interested. I have actually seen a bit of Section 31, thanks to a couple of people I get to speak to. I've seen bits of it. It is as bad as it looks from what I've seen. I've not seen the whole thing yet. So, but it is a bit of a vanity project for Michelle Yeoh. It seems to me she's going to do a bit of singing and stuff, which is a bit, and it's pretty bad. The Section 31 characters in the trailer, they look like morons. In reality, in the actual film, they're worse. They're actually like they've just been dropped on their head as children. The one who's basically RoboCop, he's got a big exosuit like Tom Cruise in that Live, Die, Repeat film, is actually thick. And I think it's supposed to be funny unless you remember that he's supposed to be like a super spy in Section 31. So
an inconspicuous power suit.
Yeah, and an inconspicuous power suit. Yeah. So I've seen about 40 minutes of the film in bits. So I've seen, and it's awful. It's really bad. And I like I say, it might work out because I've seen a pre-edit version. It's not been completely. So I've seen bits that aren't properly edited and stuff, and an early version. So it might be. It's going to be way better, hopefully, when it's edited together and the sound and all that sort of thing. But I don't see how. I got to see almost all of Romulus on an early edit again, thanks to one of our friends over at Star Trek. But it had no sound. The special effects were awful. They were like cartoon cutouts and things. But I still knew this is a good film. This is a bloody good film. And then when I saw it at the cinema, it's even better because the sound and the special effects and the editing was cleaner and all that sort of thing. I was like, oh my God, it blows me away. But I knew it was a good film. I watched in the Section 31. I'm like, oh no, this is so bad. The acting is awful. It's really cheesy. It's just bad. And I don't see how Academy's going to be any better. But it might be awesome. You never know. But I'm not looking forward to it. And that's the problem, isn't it? How do you have the most expensive Star Trek show ever made, and then you look at the audience, and most of us don't want to watch it already? It's
it's like, I don't know, back in the day, Coke changed their recipe to New Coke, and it was awful. It was just awful. And then it was like Coke was trying to justify its existence after the market had absolutely just done away. They had no interest in it. They started drinking Pepsi instead. It's like, Coca-Cola was struggling to maintain its justification of New Coke, even in the face of evidence. Like, what are we doing? No one likes our product. Everybody hates us now. Why are we still making this? And they hung their entire.
It's better when it was full of cocaine.
Right. They took out the cocaine.
That's the first thing. Yeah. Ken's just asked if there's any Babylon 5 news. It's not happening. I've told you it's not happening. I've told you 6 months ago.
They stopped shoveling. The dirt's over the grave.
Yeah, they've tried to sell it. Apparently, a couple of companies like Roku again was sniffing around it. All the major providers pretty much said no straight away. It's not happening. And J. Michael Krasinski can call me as many names as he likes. It's not going to change the fact that it's not happening. So it's not my fault. I didn't make that decision.
You did not.
It wasn't me. I didn't do it. It's just not happening. It's gone the way of Babylon 5 and Battlestar Galactica reboot and a million other projects, thanks to the strikes and the contraction of Hollywood. That actually a lot of people are looking at sci-fi. A lot of executives are looking at sci-fi at the moment, going, "This is bloody expensive to make," and it's really struggling. If it's spending 100, you can spend 30 million. And do a TV show like Love Island, which have you got that in America? Love Island, pretty people jumping around on a beach, going, "Oh, let's have sex with each other."
Yeah. Well, just keep going. It's just let's not talk about Love Island.
Well, you can spend 30 million quid doing a show like Love Island, or you can spend 150 million quid to produce a TV show like Star Trek. That's very, very difficult to do. I'm looking forward to the USS Callister sequel, but yeah, that would be very cool. I don't know if that's happening actually. Sci-fi's niche, David. You're right, and it's expensive, generally speaking. Not always, but the problem is it doesn't have to be expensive. But I think us as fans have got used to like near cinema quality, and this is what Rings of Power like near cinema quality. Look how pretty it is, and I was like, yeah, okay, cinema's expensive.
Cinema's expensive.
Really expensive. Like Firefly, not expensive.
I think because special effects, the cost of special effects have come down. Well, that's true, but now we can do better special effects, more in depth, lots of more. We can ray trace more particles, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been rewatching The Expanse, and just really paying attention to what they're doing technically in the background in terms of special effects and 3D animation and so forth. And it is gobsmacked, man. I mean,
but that was $4 million an episode, still, don't forget. And that was like 10 years ago.
Right. It was dirt cheap and well done.
That's still expensive for a TV show, though. It's dirt cheap for sci-fi.
Yeah.
But £4 million an episode is still quite an expensive TV show. You know?
Yeah. But but it's for The Expanse. Nobody asked for $150 million up front for the production company.
No, that didn't happen. The production company basically had to do it themselves, and then they just got the fee for actually producing the show. So, The Expanse is another one that I think a couple of years ago, before the thing was, several companies were looking at The Expanse and doing a continuation. I don't think we'd have got season 7.
6.
I don't think we got season 7 necessarily straight away, at least. But I think we'd have done. It did look like Apple was seriously thinking about it, and again, that's gone very quiet now. I've not heard anything about that in probably 8 or 9 months.
Did we get a season 7?
Probably yes. Last summer, I think I heard about it. So I mean, I don't think that's going to happen. I've heard nothing about the plans to do like the Knight Rider reboot.
Right.
The Space Above and Beyond reboot, I've not heard anything for ages about. You know, during the strikes, all of this stuff was being talked about, and we're like, "Oh, we need to, we need to justify our existence. We need to think about what we're going to do." And then, and now it's like, it's just gone quiet because nobody quite wants to fill in that check. Nobody quite wants to pay that money. And I honestly think Stargate has suffered for it as well. I think the Stargate reboot has suffered for it a bit because they're like, Romulus did really well. But that's like a horror. And is upbeat, sort of like positive sci-fi, like Star Trek is supposed to be, whatever. Is it what producers think we want to watch? I don't think it is. I think they think we want black and dark and scary, and and actually, I'm like, no,
we don't.
No, we don't. I want a bit of. I like positive sci-fi as well. I like Stargate SG-1. I don't necessarily need SGU. I'd like some Star Treks and some sci-fi that's got a bit cheeky, got a bit, humor. And it seems like Marvel will do a superhero movie and throw humor into it. It does really, really well. And then obviously they do the comedy vomit that is Love and Thunder. But, they can do that and it does really well. And it's like, producers of sci-fi go, no, we've still got to do dark and gritty. I'm like, Marvel have proved actually that SG-1, and SG-1 that's still watched all over the world every day. It's on 3 different channels on Sky at the moment. It's on Sky Max. It's on demand as well, but it's also on Sky One, and another one I found it on the other day. It's on 3 different channels of paying.
Do you want to know how Stargate starved I am?
Yeah.
At this point, I am so starved for new Stargate. I would settle on a sitcom based on Daniel Jackson's dorm room back when he's working on his bachelor's degree. I mean, that's where I'm at. I'm to that point.
Mate, if they came out and said there's going to be a Stargate musical, I would go, yeah, okay. That'll do.
Hey, yeah, like I said, I think we're that starved, Yeah. The musical.
I just want to see Teal'c sort of dancing down there, doing jazz hands. I'll be like, yeah, I'll take
disco ball mounted right here.
Yeah. Stargate is on the Sci-Fi channel here in the UK as well. See there, that's the 3 channels. It's on 3 different channels here in the UK. So people want to watch sci-fi that's a bit light-hearted, still got action, got clever stories, 22 episodes. We don't mind the odd filler. And it's like, people want it. But executives seem to think we want gritty, dark, clever, like, is it political? And I still think, I'm like, we don't.
Well, and I've said this before about Stargate. One of the things that's unusual about Stargate that you don't see really, you see it some, you don't see it really common these days, is a celebration of logic and intelligence. Carter and Daniel Jackson. I mean, the show was about, using logic and reason to solve problems. And even Jack, with all of his bluster, was still very, very with it in terms of, logical, solving problems logically, except for a couple of instances when he stuck his head in something he didn't need to. But like Ken said, is now I think we're looking at escapism. And back in the early, the late '60s, when we had the original Star Trek, the favorite character on there was Spock, because logic, reason, and intelligence. And I'm wondering if a lot of the sci-fi these days have gotten away with that. They're depending, on big booms, special effects, and 3D animation, et cetera, and maybe really not doing anything to push humanity forward. Yeah. Maybe that's an overreaching statement, but
well, one of the things Alex Kurtzman has said about, to go back to Star Trek and Star Trek Academy, one of the things Alex Kurtzman has said is that Star Trek Academy will be science. It will be sci-fi. They will have problems that they will then have to use science to solve. And I'm like, the point that he's had to say that really does scream about a lot of the problems that fans have had with Strange New Worlds as well, even though I like Strange New Worlds, but mainly because of the characters and Discovery, that they just sort of like, it was heavy on the fiction and not so much on the sci. It was like sci-fiction. It was like,
yeah.
What did you say first? What did you say before fiction? So,
of course, we're at a point now that we have, 2 astronauts stranded on the space station because one company is economically unable to produce a good product. Oh, and let me tell you,
economically, they can't. Isn't it that they can't design a bolt that actually works? So, hold on to the. All they need to do is hold on to the ship. That's all they need to do, and they can't seem to actually figure out how to do it.
So, I live near White Sands Missile Range,
yes.
And Starliner landed last week, and apparently we were not told, but there were some anomalies on the reentry that could have scattered Starliner all over downtown Las Cruces.
Fun.
And I will say, I didn't see the reentry, because it's a little bit cloudy here in Las Cruces that night, but the sonic boom was deafening.
Oh, man.
It went off. I thought it was another neighborhood shooting, but no, it was just a spaceship returning to Earth.
I'm planning to come over to America to visit you next year. You're not selling it.
I'm not selling it.
Neighborhood shootings, you say?
Dude, it's. I tell you what, go to Facebook and join one of the Las Cruces community forums or groups on Facebook and just read it daily. Just read it daily.
Well, now I'm thinking we just go and meet in Mexico. It feels like it might be safer.
Probably
just meet there. But yeah. But Star Trek Academy. I'm gonna get murdered. I was planning. I went on holiday years ago now, and I went to the Rockies basically. And my mom was like, "You're gonna get eaten by a bear." I'm like, I'm not going to get eaten by a bear. Now she's going to be going, you're going to get shot. Probably by Stormy. So, but you'll protect me, right?
Oh, sure.
I'll be right, better. I was going to say something very political then for a second, but I'm not going to, because I'm not getting in trouble again. We're not starting. But yeah, Star Trek Academy, though, the fact that Kurtzman had to say that just screams that they're very aware of a lot of the problems that us Trekkies have pointed out about Star Trek in the last few years. That they create a problem and then they have they seem to try to attach reasoning, like the musical episode. It's bleeding in from an alternate universe where people do just sing. I'm like, that doesn't explain it, because they all know the dance moves and everybody knows the words. There would have to be a telepathy. It would have made more sense if it was some sort of telepathic being projecting it into your brains, but they didn't do that. They went, joint. So they came up with some nonsensical reason for the musical, and that's what Star Trek has been doing for bloody years.
Here's how bad that musical episode was. I just didn't buy into the idea that it was parallel bleeding over or whatever, I will say that what I really could buy into was the villain character on Doctor Who, Maestro.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, the
Doctor
actor,
Who though is sci-fi, isn't it?
right?
I mean, it's almost fantasy. Doctor Who. It's not. It,
Yes, I mean
they
it is,
often
but
don't
I
really.
could buy into that musical uh, story device than I could the thing that was on Strange New Worlds and the singing and dancing, and it's all lovely and it's a parade. I could. It's just, yeah, it needs more sciencey.
Yeah, it's just the science was something they attached on. It was more fantasy really, but Star Trek was always supposed to. Don't get me wrong, Strange New World. The original series, Next Generation, they got the science wrong all the time. But at least they were sort of trying, and it was scientific theories that maybe they would prove wrong 6 months later. But it was like it was sci-fi. Doctor Who is more I think is more fantasy, but that's not saying that's a bad thing. That's fine. But they try to attach sci-fi onto it, but I think maybe it's partly at least the budget maybe for Doctor Who doesn't really allow them to sit around and think about very complex scientific stuff. They need to just crack on and get the show done. So that might be part of it. But, Next Generation tried, Voyager tried. They didn't always get it right. It always just feels to me that the Strange New Worlds, Discovery, they're just sort of like, we'll worry about it later.
Well, concerning the whole tardigrade and the mycelium network in science,
mushrooms. It's mushrooms.
If you want to discuss something that just blows it all out of the water, the thermodynamics of it is totally incorrect.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know
it breaks.
100%.
I mean, it's oh my God in heaven. If any of you have studied the thermodynamics in college and then tried to apply it to Discovery and the mycelium network and traveling across and the big giant tardigrade, it's not sciencey.
That was whoever wrote it, and I'm going to blame Kurtzman because I blame him for everything. That's going to be he read something about extremophiles. I'm like, that sounds cool. And then he happened to hear something in the background about mycelial networks and things. I went, well, that sounds cool. On Earth as well, that's a real thing. And he went, can we shoehorn that into a story? And then we'll make that. And then somebody went, extremophiles are very, very small. That's fine. We'll just make it the size of a fucking cow. It's fine. And then nobody's in the background going, this is idiotic.
Yeah.
It's like, but I don't care. Kurtzman's just like, I don't give a shit. I'll do it anyway. And it's like, it's like, but it's the same with the J.J. Abrams movies. And I'm watching the first J.J. Abrams movie going, when did they make the Enterprise hydroelectric? Because they wanted a joke with Scotty being beamed into a water pipe and then see him go disappear and pass the pipe. They did it for that, but they made it hydroelectric. And I'm just like, that's stupid. And then they changed it again for the second movie, and they changed it again for the third movie. It's just like, it's just.
So let's talk about thermodynamics while we're on this topic. The issue I had with that is how much damn water is Enterprise using?
Yeah, a lot of water.
I mean, the fuselage would have to be at least twice as big to just handle the filtration.
Well, especially seeing they've all got sonic showers because water, in theory, is supposed to be at a premium, but they made the damn thing hydroelectric. Somebody says I think it was the cooling system. Never had a cooling system like that before in Star Trek. I think they used shielding or something or energy. Okay,
so liquid water, can't go below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, or it becomes ice. So it has limited, cooling. I mean, there's a limit there, right? At 100, at 212 standard pressure, it turns into vapor. But what is outside? So you got 212 degrees Fahrenheit, but then outside the ship, it's damn near 0 Kelvin. If you're looking for ability to cool something off, the vacuum space, radiate that shit out. I'm just saying.
Do you think we need to reset it to 2005? Star Trek? Do we need to just forget the last 10 years of Star Trek and just pretend it didn't happen? Because they've tried, Discovery and whatever have tried. They've gone, oh, okay. Fans have pointed out they've made horrible mistakes with Star Trek. So they've gone, oh, and they've come up with like really bullshit excuses to get them around certain things. I mean, the whole thing with Discovery was they just went, we'll just go in the future then. Because we're making things really bad, and then we'll just go. How come nobody's ever heard of the Discovery? We'll say that no one's allowed to, and we'll make it a Discovery directive, and everyone's just gonna go shh. You know. So, do we just need to go bollocks to it, and just go back to the end of Voyager and start from there?
Well, you know, Voyager was. I think Voyager was a rather strong storyline. You know. It took a while for it to find its footing, but I in the end, I loved all the characters, loved the story, the way it went over the 7 seasons. And we have thrown away canon ever since Voyager. So why not start back to where the canon left off? I don't see it can't get worse. I'm just saying, you know, the producers of Voyager were really, you know, determined to stay with canon as much as they could, you know, and the way they sidestepped it was they threw the Enterprise or the Voyager out into the Delta Quadrant, you know.
Why can't Paramount file for bankruptcy and reorganize, which would let them? I mean, that is possible. It would let them avoid certain contracts. Again, that's not quite how bankruptcy works, I don't think, because Kurtzman and Secret Hideout could then sue for loss of earnings and things. So
and then they end up owning everything.
They'd end up selling everything, and then bankruptcy causes loads of problems. But yeah, it could solve a few, but it would cause more, I think. But it's not a bad idea. I just want to see Captain Janeway coming out of the sonic shower and going, it was all a dream, and then we just move on to the new Trek. Maybe that's what we do. But Lower Decks can still be canon. That'd be fine.
That's true. That's true.
It's just, but I mean, even like Strange New Worlds, people like Strange New Worlds generally, but I mean, they hired Captain Kirk, and then he turns up every fucking week. And Captain Kirk is not supposed to know Captain Pike. He's not supposed to know him. But they're best bloody friends by this point because he just turns up every week. Because I imagine because the actor's on a contract, I imagine. But but Strange New Worlds really is just pissing all over canon. It's not, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind some canon getting messed up. I don't mind, and you got timey-wimey stuff that can always solve a problem where if you can't be asked to actually think of a proper one. You know, it's like Kate Mulgrew naked thing. Like, that's mean. You don't have to see. You have a towel around her. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh no, 7 of 9 comes out of the sonic shower and goes, it was all a dream.
You see, Janeway would come out of the room, you know, with a cup of coffee, and say, somebody put shrooms in my coffee. That's how that works. Then you get onto the program network, and then you weave all that together. And
we'll do that, yeah. Big towel.
Shrooms in the coffee. That's how Janeway gets it.
Yeah. The cartoon version of Captain Janeway is skinny like a rake. It's like her waist is like that big. Look at this. But
coffee is a diuretic.
Yeah. I think I don't want to see us throw out the baby with the bathwater, because for all of the bad things that Kurtzman has done with Star Trek, and this is going to be, get ready for this. I don't think it's all been bad. I think that like the amount of money and I think Star Trek is really pretty nowadays. I like that, and I think some of the stories have been interesting. I could ignore all of Discovery quite happily, but some of Strange New Worlds has been good. So I don't want to like do a complete reset. And I think they've done an okay job of trying to fix some of their mistakes over time. which they've tried to do. I just think Strange New Worlds probably does need to come to an end after season 4. Okay, season 5 may be at a push, but then it needs to end because it's just like it really is pissing all over canon at this point, and it was taking the mick. But do we reset? Well, if we did, we forget about the burn. Just say that didn't happen.
That was crazy. That's
stupid. And we know it's coming at some point in the future, so it's just like this makes everything sad. I want to pretend the Federation can last forever. But yeah, there's a few things within Star Trek, to be honest, that you'd like, oh god, I really wish they'd get rid of that. But they could just do a new series, a new show, and just carry on. And just carry on doing what they've been doing, to be honest, and remember the canon you care about and forget the canon you don't. And just move on. Move on to a new show. Will we care? Particularly if there's a couple of years gap, will we care?
Yeah.
No one's going to moan that, oh, in Discovery they said, blah, blah, blah. No one's going to go, oh, you're peeing all over Discovery canon. No one's going to care. I don't think anyone will care, will even remember Discovery in 10 years' time. It'll be like, a million other sci-fi shows to just get forgotten about because they're not very good.
I mean, that's true. It seems, we have to get the CGI right. We have to get the special effects right, and they take money out of the story budget and put it into that, and all of a sudden you've got something that looks really good. Ain't worth shit. I'm still stunned that the Expanse got made and turned out to be really good. I'm hoping they do. What's his name? Andy Weir's. What is it? Project Hail Mary is coming up, and I hope they get.
No, that's late this year or early next year. I forget, but yeah, that should be good. Pretty good.
I thought it was, maybe within 6-8 months, maybe.
I can't remember if it's the end of this year or early next year. I can't remember, but it's soon, isn't it?
Yeah, so I hope they do that justice because, the whole spider, the Xenon spider is just, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be very cool. Listen, anyway, so we have to call it an evening. We have to say bye-bye because I promised I would be done before 6:30 because of the wife. And I have to watch the very ever last tour tonight, the grand tour tonight. It's the very last one. I can't wait to watch it. So I'm going to be watching that this evening. Stormy, it's back to 2021.
I know. Oh my God.
Has it been good for you, mate? Has it been good for you?
Yeah. I keep having the urge to take my temperature, but I think we're going to be okay.
I think we're going to be okay as well. Mate, it's been absolutely legendary. We've had over 200 people watching most of the videos, so thank you so much.
Oh,
everybody,
wow.
please hit a like on the video. Tell us your comments. Tell us what you think. It's 3 a.m. in Oz, Dave, and you're still here, you madman. It's been really, really legendary. Let's do this again very, very soon. And yes, I am rushing because I do need a wee.
I know you need to wee.
I need to go quite urgently. All right, guys. Love you all. See
you
next week.
Y'all be good.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.